Today, I'm answering a question regarding unconscious moments and suggestions. This was a question from a video talking about unconscious moments. If you don't know what that is, in advanced conversational hypnosis, this is exactly what we use to lead our sessions, and this is what we look for in our clients. So, if you don't know unconscious moments, make sure you check out this page for explanations regarding unconscious moments. And I'll explain it a little bit today too here on this video, but I'm going to get right into the question, which is when they're in that moment, in an unconscious moment, is there ever a time that you would say a suggestion? So this is such a great question. And obviously, I'm going to answer this based on what we do in advanced conversational principles using our principles, because there's going to be many different avenues for this. But in the ACH world, is there a time to say a suggestion? And yes, there is a time um, to say a suggestion, but it's very much context related. So let me give you an example first off. So when you're talking to a client, when you're conversing with a client and you're finding more of these unconscious moments, let's stick with one unconscious moment, which is, let's say it is a conflicting, clashing reality. What do I mean by that? So one auditory unconscious moment is when your client tells you types of beliefs and thoughts, and when you're hearing different beliefs and thoughts that are coming out of the conversation as you explore their problem. And so, for example, you're hearing something like, well, I just want to be perfect, but I know that nothing is ever going to be perfect, that or there's no such thing as perfection, right? This is very typical. This is like a bind that a lot of our clients have, and probably personally too, right? Something about perfectionism, right? So it's this clashing reality of I want to be perfect and I expect myself to be perfect, but I know that that's not possible. It's very, very typical to have this type of conflict, right? The conscious to unconscious conflict where the conscious mind says, logically, there's no perfection, but unconsciously they really, really are holding on to this wanting to be perfect. And as a hypnotist, as a coach, you're helping them to unravel where that is coming from, right? So say you hear that, that's an example. Is there ever a time that you would say a suggestion? And it really just depends on where you're at in the conversation. So for example, if you're in a conversation and it's just very like at the beginning, maybe in the first 10 to 15 minutes, and you haven't really quite explored that clashing reality yet. Maybe it's the first time that they've mentioned it. I want to be perfect, but I know that that's not possible. It's the very first time they say it. In ACH, we don't recommend saying suggestions there. Why? Because they still have a they still have reasons and we call these knots in ACH. They're still knotted within that reality that they need to be perfect. So a suggestion is not going to land very well because they have some beliefs, some, wiring that's really preventing them from knowing and believing for sure that they cannot be perfect and to accept themselves for exactly as they are. So when you say a suggestion very early on, it's not going to have a massive impact because it's just there's no place to sit yet, because there's still a lot of beliefs underneath it. There's still a lot of dirty thoughts that are there that will stop them from fully believing that suggestion. So, for example, a suggestion is that progress is perfection, or you're good enough for exactly as you are. You don't need to be perfect. One of those suggestions, right? If they are just bringing it up at the very first time, well, you haven't really investigated the reason as to why that conflict exists yet. So putting a suggestion in isn't going to stick. Like there's nothing for it to stick, right? So what we would recommend is for you to really place your client's attention on that unconscious moment and allow it to grow, 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 grow. And by allowing it to grow, you'll start to find out the deeper layer as to where these beliefs are coming from, where the unconscious is getting stuck with regards to wanting to be perfect. And once you explore that, and once your client gets a breakthrough and they say, oh my God, this is the reason as to why I need to be perfect all the time. And they realize after your investigatory phase that yeah, I don't need to be perfect. I'm good enough for exactly as they are, which means that, they're starting to think again. They no longer believe in that old identity of needing to be perfect. And so that is the best time to give a suggestion when you've already kind of cleaned up the beliefs. It's more kind of like in the end, once you've kind of allow them to process that information and allow them to shift unconsciously, which is then when you can add in suggestions. And in ACH, we're actually very careful with the suggestions that we give our clients. And the suggestions that we give our clients are suggestions that the clients have given us. So, what does this mean? This means that let's use the same example. If you are in a spot where the client has shifted that belief or of perfection, and they're starting to talk, and you're starting to notice that, hey, they're starting to accept themselves, they're starting to believe that they no longer need to be perfect, then there's two real options really. You can add your own personal suggestion, which, let's just say, for example, it says, um, you are perfect exactly as you are. Say that's the suggestion. You could try that, and their unconscious may or may not accept their suggestion. It really depends. You can test it out. The only way you'll know is if you actually test it out and their unconscious accepts it. But what we do in ACH really is wait for the clients to give themselves a suggestion, and we kind of just bring it back. So, for example, the client gets a breakthrough, their mindset starts to shift with regards to perfectionism. And in that moment, while they're in trance, because when you stack up all of these unconscious moments, they do start getting into their own way of trance. Say they trance out and then they go, wow, all I need to do is just take the next step, and then I'll figure it out. That's what they say. That is the perfect time to utilize that suggestion that they really self-suggested. So just take the next step. So for you as a hypnotist, you would say, yes, it's just take the next step and you'll figure it. And that will be your suggestion. That will be the thing while in that trance that you keep repeating over and over because it came from them. It's going to be more powerful because it's their own suggestion that you're really just feeding it back to them. Well, when you see this in happening like right in front of you, it's really amazing to see the subconscious react. It's like you're hitting them with like they feel like when you give your clients their own self-suggestion, they feel like they're in this like wonderful bliss. So that's how we like to do it in ACH. So when they tell you, yeah, I think I'm just going to take the next step and I'll figure it out, take that and repeat it to them, utilize it and keep repeating it. Yes, take the next step and you'll figure it out, and say that over and over, and that is going to be the best suggestion or suggest. And maybe there's multiple things that they say, then just repeat that. The biggest point really here is the suggestions that you want to give your clients are the ones that they have given to themselves. And sometimes they're not even going to realize that they said the suggestion, and then you give it back to them and they're like, oh my God, this is awesome. But in your head, you're like, well, you said it, I just utilized it. And that's how you know it's completely unconscious, right? So keep repeating their own suggestions, utilize what they say to you, because that is just more powerful, right? It came from their subconscious, and that suggestion is the suggestion that they actually need in order for them to stick to that new reality and start rewiring their subconscious, because it came from their own subconscious. It's not an artificial suggestion that we made for them, which may or may not work. It may work. Their unconscious may accept it, but their unconscious may not as well. So it's just better to utilize what they do or what they give us and what they say, because it's just going to be more powerful. So I hope that this helped your question. There is a time to give a suggestion when clients are in unconscious moments, and it's when And the best time is when you've cleared up all the knots, once you've cleared up all the the unprocessed negative emotion. Um, and that the suggestion to best use is the suggestion that they gave you from their own subconscious. So I hope this helps. Um, Let me know if you have any questions here, if you want any more clarification. I would love to hear it. I would love to answer all your questions regarding ACH and unconscious moments. And so, yes, that is it for now. And I will see you soon.